Hello and welcome to another taste challenge. I'm having to feed this through StreamYard again because the platform is still really screwed up now. It's like it gets worse every day. YouTube Live, I don't know what's going on there, but that thing is failing bad. All right, anyway, I have two 40% alcohol, 80 proof bourbon whiskey products. This is G&W Private Stock Kentucky Sour Mash Straight Whiskey, Bourbon Whiskey, aged 3 years, bottled by G&W Distillers, Scobeyville, New Jersey, from Selected Reserve. So it was introduced in 1933. I bought this 1 liter bottle for $8 at Elio's Wine Warehouse. And this is not made in New Jersey. It's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey sour mash. It is produced in Kentucky by somebody. And it is what you would call a sourced whiskey or independent bottled whiskey. A common practice in Scotland and the United States, I might add. Now here is 10 High. The current 10 High, not the one I did earlier this morning. 10 High Sour Mash, America's Native Spirit. Now that's the name of it, 10 High Sour Mash. Notice it's not called 10 High Sour Mash Bourbon Whiskey. Strange, isn't it? Established 1879. Well, not 10 High, Hiram Walker, the parent company who sold it to Barton. 10 High came out in 1934. I found the trademark information on it. So I know that's correct. Beautiful plastic bottle. Nothing says quality like the thud of plastic. Here's what it is. Here's the legal description. All liquor products, beer, wine, and liquor have to have a legal description. It says bourbon whiskey with natural flavors, 40% alcohol. No age statement. No blend ratio or anything like that. It is just bottled by Barton Distilling Company, Louisville, Kentucky. We love to hear from our customers, Sazerac.com. Well, Sazerac owns Barton. They used to have a website, but it's gone. Now, you might say, I thought bourbon could not be flavored. That's right. Bourbon cannot have flavoring added or coloring. This doesn't say anything about coloring added. So that is the natural color. No, it says bourbon with natural flavors. So the company is going to tell you this is not a flavored bourbon. It's a bourbon with natural flavors. In other words, a distilled spirit specialty, a DSS, which means a product that doesn't legally fit any other category. So it's just put in a catch-all DSS. So the reason being is probably that the flavoring exceeds the allowed. Oh, the problem is that the flavoring exceeds the allowed amount of 2.5%. So it's probably a blended bourbon like the old Barton 10 High. 10 High used to say bourbon a blend. And they are allowed to add flavoring to blended bourbon, but it can't go above 2.5%. So they might have gone above 2.5%, which is not a problem. All they got to do is reclassify it as a distilled spirit specialty, and then just give a description. Now, if you read your regulations, this is the most interesting part about the regulations. If you have a blended bourbon, you have to put the blend ratio, what percentage of it is non-aged, unaged distillate. But you don't have to disclose if you're adding coloring or flavoring, all right? Now, if it's classified as a distilled spirit specialty, you have to tell what it is, and you must disclose if it has flavoring or coloring added. So it's sort of like a balancing act. On one end, it's good and bad. On the other end, it's good and bad. So it's that's the story at the time. Yeah, plastic rules, right? Don't have quite enough G&W. Gooderham and Wirtz. Okay, Gooderham and Wirtz was an independent liquor company. I know they had a distillery in Canada. I don't know if they, honestly, I don't know if they ever had a distillery in the United States. All their American whiskey might have been sourced. Evening, you mean morning, Joe Cobb. Their distillery was shut down back, I think, in 1993, something like that. What happened was they got acquired. They kind of went downhill, and they got acquired by Barton Distilling. And then Barton got acquired by the Sazerac Company, and I guess they spun it off. The G&W part, Gooderheim and Wirtz, they spun it off to Laird Company. Now, the Gooderheim and Wirtz also made a product in the early 1960s called Canadian Limited. Canadian Limited, which you say, well, I see that on the shelves, right? I know I can get it at Walmart or Mathern's today. Inexpensive Canadian blended whiskey, been on the market 64 years. But Sazerac retained. That used to be, you used to say, if you look at the old advertisements from the early 1960s, they used to say Gooderham and Wirtz, Canadian Limited. But you see, Barton took it over. And when Sazerac took over Barton, they said, let's keep that one. Let's keep that one, Canadian Limited, because I guess it's a strong seller. There is also a 12-year age red label, which nobody ever sees. But that'd be one to track down. But I guess G&W wasn't much of a seller, the actual bourbon. So they said, let Laird have it. And they still make it today. So I paid $8 for that liter. And the 10 high for this big jug bottle, yeah, you can find it around like at Total Wine and More or Mathern's, $15.99. $15.99 for this big, huge thing. Big, huge thing. This big mango beer hug. All right. There's the website. Not much to show you. They show you a bottle shot, which they obviously photographed at their headquarters. And then they're showing this 5-year age 86 proof, which I've never seen. Much nicer looking bottle. 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Probably the same ratio. You know, it's probably the same mash bill percentages as the regular private stock, but it's higher proof and aged 2 years longer. So that would make sense. So who makes the G&W and who makes the 10 high? This we do not know, because 10 high, it does not say it's made by Sazerac or Barton. It says it's bottled by them. Because in Kentucky and Tennessee, they have big whiskey auctions. Like there's a lot of overflow production. These distilleries, Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Wild Turkey, Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Barton 1792, Glenmore, George Dickel, and so forth. They produce a lot more whiskey than they can sell on their own labels. That ain't a problem, because what they do is they'll have auctions where they'll just say, okay, now we have this 3-year aged bourbon with, they might give the mash bill, and then people will bid on it, buy a few train loads of it. You know what I mean? Normally, and they'll take it and bottle it. Okay, you say, oh yeah, they do that in Scotland. They'll pick stuff and they'll bottle it under their own name. Yeah, same thing here. Same thing. Well, that's what you ever heard of G&B Scotch? They don't have a factory. There is no such thing as a G&B distillery. There's no such thing as a Johnny Walker distillery. They don't exist. They never have. They're only blenders. They buy whiskey from other people, or in the case of Diageo, they actually own their own other distilleries and they blend them. Okay, so does that mean that the whiskey is inferior? Well, it might mean that, because it seemed like they would save their best stuff for their own bottling, right? I say it seems like they would. I don't know if they would. I'm just saying it. You know, why would you auction off your better stuff? You know what I mean? It seemed like you would auction off your lesser stuff, but I don't know. I don't know the practice. I just know sort of like what they do. But I was at my friend David's house Tuesday, and I tried something called Members Mark Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Members Mark from Sam's Club. And it tasted pretty good. I know it was from Sazerac because it said on the back of the bottle, distilled at Barton 1792 Distillery. That's owned by the Sazerac Company for years. So, and my friend David got a little aggravated when I said, "Oh, this is just like Stedman Select." Oh no, he was like, "Buddy Rich, when you fly off the handle," because he was saying, it's not the same thing. I said, well, it's the same proof, and it's literally from the same distillery. And the Stedman Select is sold at Walmart, although at other stores. It's not a private label. And the doggone Members Mark is sold at Sam's Club. But he was like insistent it wasn't the same. I can't say because I never tried the modern. I haven't tried the modern Stedman Select. I got a bottle on the shelf. I haven't opened it. All right, now time for the taste challenge. They're both copper, but this one's much lighter. I don't know which one it is. I just know it's lighter, and this one's a little bit darker amber, but neither one is dark. So I don't get the impression that they're using a heavy char. They're 80 proof. Bourbon has to be at least 80 proof, so that they're at the minimum level, legally required level. Minimum can't go below 80. Actually, if you sell whiskey below 80, it's not whiskey in the United States. I'm not talking about New Zealand or Mexico. It would be something else. Yeah, smell like vanilla. Smell like vanilla, sweet corn. If you want to say candy corn, I'll go along with that. If you notice these bourbons, they have such a common aroma and flavor. But I can't say it. I can't say that because people say, "Oh no, you're wrong." You know, they're all different and so complex and different. All right, okay, I'll go. I won't argue with you because you're saying it. So, and I've tried expensive, mid-range, cheap, but I don't feel like arguing about it. Less vanilla, more oak, more corn flour or popcorn. I would say that's the G&W and that's the 10 high. That's the G&W. That's 10 high. I'm not sure. I haven't tasted them. Let's go. It's put me at a pretty good. I think I'm like at 6 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. I think that's where I am right now. 6 wins. I have to double check. 6 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie. I wouldn't really get upset about that because this G&W is so common. You know, it's so common to the rest. It doesn't have anything bad about it, but it just doesn't differentiate itself. So I can see somebody getting it confused. Am I picking up any rye notes here? Yes. Minty rye for sure. And we know that Sazerac, Buffalo Trace, they tend to make high rye bourbons. I'm getting vanilla, sweetness, sugar water, charred oak, all the same as they say in the 1990s, yada, yada, yada type of situation. Okay. Actually, over here, I'm getting less char, a little more vanilla. I'm getting char now. I say less char, a little more vanilla, maybe a little. Is it a little more or less candy corn? Oh no, it's a different brand of candy corn. You know, no, I don't know. It's something different about it. It's very mild, mellow, light, light to medium body, dry finish. They're both that way. Now, which of these would I buy? Well, I suppose I'd buy whatever one was cheaper, which in this case would be, let's see, 8 divided by 1,000, crazy, right? Times 1750, 14 even. Yeah, I'd go with the I'd buy the G&W because it's cheaper per ounce. In this case, this particular case, this is not the normal price. So take that into account. You're not going to find G&W, Gutterham and Wirtz, Kentucky straight sour mash whiskey, a liter bottle for $8. I mean, I did, but you know, most Americans will never see that. I don't know why the New Orleans, Louisiana area has these mad liquor discounts, but they do, and I take advantage of it. And why not? You know, if I'm buying something for half the price, or in some cases 35% of the price, like literally 65% discount, yeah, I'm going to buy it. Yeah, I'm not going to feel bad about it. Found the Ezra Brooks Kentucky straight rye whiskey, $9. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Indiana straight rye, right? Or did mine say Kentucky? Maybe they switched production to Kentucky before. No, maybe it's in, but it doesn't matter. Straight rye whiskey, $9. I still know where to find Evan Williams Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, a liter bottle, $9. Know where to find it. Ain't gonna tell you, but I know where to find. All right. Now let's get down to the bottom line. Are these very different one from another? I would say definitely not. Definitely not. In a technical sense, they're not the same product because of some production issue. I can't say issues. Production details. Certain production details would make them technically different products. Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey sour mash and sour mash bourbon whiskey with natural flavors. Doesn't even say Kentucky on it. It just says bottle in Kentucky. Interesting. So could this be coming from Indiana? It's very possible. Very possible. And probably very likely, but what the heck? Midwest Grain Product puts out some solid whiskey, bourbon whiskey and other types, so that shouldn't matter. But just some people are prejudiced, you know, they hear Indiana, they're gonna immediately downgrade the score because it's not Kentucky. So they hear Indiana, oh, that's a B, not an A. I don't know what I was thinking. No, you were thinking an A, but you heard Indiana, so you dropped it to a B. Because you have preconceived notions. Not to mention that the distillery has been there since 1847, so they might know what they're doing, but you just can't get past that geographical hang-up. Now, would I expect Louisiana bourbon whiskey to be as good as Kentucky? Well, I would not. Actually, I would think it would be inferior in some ways. So automatically, I'm starting to downgrade it mentally because I'm thinking, well, Louisiana is not a bourbon state, although we have bourbon whiskey made here. But it would be unfair because I would have to do the tasting first to really make an evaluation. And to compare it, I would have to do blind taste tests to be sure. And that is important. And that's why I'm doing this here. But all that being said, I still think that's the 10 high. Now on the aroma, I had it backward, but I think that's a 10 high. Why do I think it's a 10 high? It's like super smooth and mild, which means it's a little bit overly smooth and mild, unusually smooth and mild. In other words, abnormally smooth and mild. It doesn't seem, there seems something weird about it, a little strange. Is it a good product for $15.99 a handle? Well, yeah, for that kind of risk, you're not taking any risk. It's like a risk-free option. I can still track down Canadian whiskeys in a handle bottle. Canadian, no tariffs yet. Canadian whiskey, $13.99. Let me repeat. I can still find Canadian whiskeys, $13.99 in big, huge bottles. Are they awesome? Yeah, obviously not. Are they enjoyable in their own little way? in their own little idiosyncratic and eccentric way. They're enjoyable in that way, in that sense. Wouldn't want to give them as a wedding gift, but But 10 high, yeah, it's all right. I probably won't buy it again, but yeah, I can't complain. I do like vanilla. Wouldn't want to have it incessantly, but I give it about an 8 point. At this time, at this current scoring, I'll probably go 8.3. You know, it's good, but nothing to think about too much. G&W, I'll probably go with a 9. Score subject to change. 9 out of 10. Like getting into excellent. It is Kentucky Sour Mash, straight bourbon whiskey after all. I got it. So I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking. And I say, oh no, too strangely smooth and has that unusual vanilla and nut oil note. Because I think they jacked the vanilla up above the allowed percentage. Didn't matter. All you got to do is change the label. Before, about 8 years ago, it just said 10 high blended with bourbon whiskey, a blend. They probably had 2.5% vanilla. No coloring added. Then they decided to maybe they jacked it up to 3.5%. It was still maybe a little rough, you know. They went to 3.5% vanilla. Now it's smoothed it out because it tastes like one of those Clark candy bars or something. I'm kidding, but I'm not really kidding. No big deal. All they did was change the label. They call it 10 High Sour Mash. 10 High America's Native Spirit Sour Mash. And then they just adjusted the label down here. Bourbon whiskey with natural flavors. That's totally allowed. That's definitely allowed, as evidenced by the fact that I see them all the time. I bought the Royal bourbon whiskey with natural flavors from Heaven Hill. Yeah, it's very similar to this. Nothing special, but honestly, you can't say anything bad about it. Now you say only bums buy that. Okay, well then the bums enjoy it because it tastes good. All right, so Laissez-les Bon Temps Relais, another win, and I'll be back with a couple of more, maybe only one more. I lost track of the number. But yeah, G&W, does it hold its own? It holds its own against similar products, you know, kind of lower shelf, very low, lower shelf bourbons. But obviously, if you put it into competition against some high-end bourbons, it would get massacred, swashbuckled, and otherwise scalawagged. You know what I mean? It wouldn't make it. You understand that? But I mean, but you knew that before I said it. So anyway, yeah, it's all right. It's actually better than all right. All right, well, y'all take care now and see y'all around the bend. You take care.